spoiler alert for Honkai Star Rail and discussion of upcoming storylines. I hope you enjoy! Welcome to Galaxy Burgers. What can I get for you?
Hello, yes, I would like chicken nuggets, please.
Okay, yes. How many chicken nuggets would you like?
All.
I'm sorry, sir. Could you repeat that? I said all. Okay, so I was gonna sit this month out and put all my effort into next month's video so I can make it as awesome as possible, which I'm still going to do. But I've been working on explaining the paths in Aeon's short series, and once I got to Propagation and Voracity, I said, hey, this would be a great place to talk about the link between Propagation and Voracity. And so I started scripting. And it was after scripting like the 5th one that I realized this is just not gonna make sense if I keep chopping up all my evidence into 1-minute increments. So I have just slapped a bunch of short scripts end to end, wrote a few segues, and poof, 5-minute video. Maybe 10 or 15. I don't know yet. Anyway, for anyone who's been keeping up with my shorts over the past 2 weeks, probably a third of this video is gonna feel very familiar to you, although I am going much more in depth with some of what I've already talked about, so stick around if you want. To any of you guys who remember the IPC video last year today, in fact. This is a theory that I have had in mind literally since then, but didn't talk about it because I wanted a little more evidence for it first. And after the past couple updates, I finally have some stuff to go off of. So consider this as a companion video to that one, and if you haven't seen that one already, I highly suggest you go watch it. It's in my MMA Essentials playlist. Go check it out. This is super rushed and informal, but I hope you like it, and if you do, subscribe, like, turn on notifications, leave a comment. Please don't put leaks in my comments though. And yeah, let's get into this. I'm on so much caffeine right now. Can you tell? Caffeine in my bloodstream, caffeine in my brain. Okay, so let's start with the swarm disaster. If you've been on my channel for any length of time, you already have some understanding of it. Giant sentient mouth, giant swarm of insects, nom 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 nom, with 2/3 of the galaxy as garnish. But there's something super interesting going on under the hood from a path perspective. I've already explained what I believe is the meaning behind both Propagation and Voracity in my shorts over the past couple weeks. Those are in the MMA Essentials playlist as well, but I'll do a quick recap for anyone who hasn't seen those. Voracity is a path of consumption. Its Aeon Oroboros will and did eat anything and everything, but under it all seems to be a fear of emptiness. Propagation, on the other hand, is a path of creation, but specifically the creation of offspring. And the few times we see it at play in the game, it involves a fear of extinction or of being alone. So here we have infinite creation and infinite consumption. And so when the two paths ended up coming head to head during the swarm disaster, it had the effect of an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. But fast forward to the end of the swarm disaster, and Oroboros, the Aeon of Voracity, is nowhere to be found. And no one knows where they went. All we know is they were last seen fighting the swarm, and I don't think that's a coincidence.
Crops in Ukraine's southern regions are under attack from locusts. Breeding in inaccessible areas, the insects are capable of devastating crops in days.
Swarms happen in real life too. As I'm scripting and recording this, there are some parts of the world that are currently covered in bugs. And if you care to go research the effects of a real life swarm, you'll find one of the most dangerous things about them isn't that they're everywhere covering anything being generally gross. The biggest danger is they eat everything. Trees, ground cover, crops. Basically anything they can get their little mandibles on. And what this leads to in their wake is famine. You see what I'm getting at? In Star Rail 1.0, we were told there are 3 ways to kill an Aeon. We're not told the third one, but the first is when 2 Aeons fight and one kills another. And the second one is when there are 2 paths with similar concepts. The broader one sorta assimilates the narrower one. And this is an almost perfect description of what happened with the swarm. What we call the swarm didn't start big. In fact, it started with one single insect that was the last of their species, but as they grew in number, it got to the point that they literally outpaced the Voracity itself in the world's biggest competitive eater contest. So in other words, the swarm started embodying the concept of Voracity even better than Oroboros theirself. And what you need to understand about Aeons is, as far as we know, the thing that makes them Aeons is they are the beings that best embody the concepts of the paths. So Oroboros, no longer being the thing that ate the most stuff, effectively dethroned them as an Aeon, causing the collapse of Voracity as an independent path and and assimilating it under the umbrella of propagation, allowing Tayzzyronth to gain the upper hand in the conflict. From there, whether Oroboros was eaten, split into pieces, fell into nihility, or some secret messed up other thing, the swarm survived and Oroboros didn't. Don't get me wrong, the philosophy of veracity still exists, but there's no path for it anymore. Or rather, anyone who follows veracity in the Star Rail universe has to follow propagation to do it. That's what I think is going on, but it's still just a theoretical argument. If this is what actually happened, then shouldn't we be able to see these connections between veracity and propagation play out in present day? Well, we kind of do, at least symbolically, and it's been going on for a while. If you guys remember in 1.5, we got swallowed by remnants of the swarm and then had to escape with Argenti's help. To this day, this is the only update that I didn't immediately play once it was released. I waited like a month and a half because I'd gotten bored of the game and it felt super filler at the time. Oh no, I was so wrong. But I remember when I finally did play it, it felt wrong somehow. I wasn't nearly as into lore then as I am now, but I did know a little bit about Tazzy and Oro at the time, and it just felt philosophically weird. But after digging into this concept of veracity propagation a little bit, I figured out why it bugged me. Pun. And shocker, I don't think this is the swarm. Or not the swarm we hear about in legends anyway. I think this is what the swarm looks like after absorbing the veracity. We do know that the thing we were swallowed by was a giant sting because we were tripping balls the entire time due to its wing particles, apparently. But when we were flying away, the only clear view we get of the giant sting is this giant red mouth, and guess what? This image is 1-to-1 with the only representation we have of veracity besides the fun little Eon splash arts. Again, we were tripping balls, so at least a few things we were seeing weren't even there. But if I were a betting man, and I kind of am, the betting part at least, I'd be willing to bet that this is real, which means that this veracity image right here is the mouth of a swarm bug. In present day, the swarm is the embodiment of veracity. But of course, we're not done. Because one of my favorite little principles for myself when theorizing is that paths always leave a mark on their followers. So if that's true, then because veracity now exists as an extension of propagation, if we see someone following veracity, then by definition, they also have to have some association with propagation. We don't have a whole lot when it comes to veracity characters, but there are 3 strong contenders. One is Sujilite, but I'm going to go ahead and skip over him just because we only have 3 voice lines from him and no actual information about where he came from or what his motivation is, besides him being a little glutton. It's a start, but it's not enough. So let's go ahead and skip down to Jade. I already talked about her last week, but I'm going to talk about her again because she's the reason I finally decided to do this video. She is a character who has a lot of veracity coding in her design. For one, she has her sneaky snake that literally eats people, and for another, she has a snake on the sole of her shoe. I poked around on the internet quite a bit trying to find a symbol that looks like this and nothing quite matched, but we did recently talk about the Oroboros symbol, which represents both consumption and repeating cycles, which both are associated with Jade. And that usually looks like this, but with the snake leaving the loop, it's almost like the cycle is broken now. I don't know. If this is a symbol in its own right that I don't know about, please let me know. But anyway, the biggest evidence for Jade following veracity is that she consumes the life force of her customers. They come to her with wishes and desires. She is able to grant them either with her Cornerstone's ability or with her personal resources. Although, when I reviewed the quest for this theory, I'm pretty sure she's actually using her client's payments to grant the wishes. The Papeshi who wants to be with his sweetheart gives all the money he has for Jade to give him a necklace for her. The Intellitron who wants to solve a crime gives his memories for it, basically giving Jade access to all the information about the crime, giving the vibe that the ability to achieve what they wanted was within their grasp all along. And beyond that, giving a vibe of her tricking people into consuming themselves for their ambitions, which could maybe be her tricking people into following the veracity? I don't know. Either way, the way she works is people come to her with a problem in their life, she fixes said problem, but her solution makes an even bigger problem, which they then come to her again to have her fix the problem she made, until eventually people have nothing left to give her as payment except their own life. Which is part of why I think Aventurine got her attention, by the way, because that was his first offer, and he ended up coming out on top in his wager with her, twice. twice. As far as we know, he's the only person to be able to do that. I keep getting sidetracked. The point is, once people get to the point where they can't pay up and have offered their own lives as collateral, they get eaten by her snake. As I said earlier, all the other collateral we've seen her take, I'm pretty sure goes right back into granting wishes, but what use are lives to her? Well, to answer that, we need to talk about who Jade really is, because her name isn't Jade or Bana Jade or anything like that. She uses that name in the same way Kakabasha uses Aventurine and Yelena uses Topaz. Jade's real name is Eve. That's what she signs her contracts with. It's scribbled on the bottom of her shoe, and she was introduced in a Trailblaze mission called All About Eve. This got tricky for me because the wiki was being stupid again, but we do actually have one readable that also mentions someone named Eve. It's the fabricated travelogue, in which an employee of the Dreamscape writes letters back to their bedridden partner named Eve, telling them to get well and that she must live until they can find a cure for an illness like hers. If these two Eves are the same person, that would mean that Jade is using people's life force to extend her own life and keep herself dying from an illness. But because this illness is incurable, she needs to consume almost constantly to keep herself well. So if we look at our criteria around veracity from earlier, she fits this really well. So if veracity was consumed by propagation, that should mean that Jade also has propagation undertones as well. And while they're not immediately apparent, she really does. First off, her name is Eve, as in Adam and Eve. And aside from being famous for eating something she shouldn't have, speaking of, she's also associated with apples in her splash art and her featured light cone. In the Bible, the name Eve literally means the mother of all the living. Besides this, Jade is also, I believe, from a propagation faction. And no, I actually don't mean the IPC this time. I mean Qlipoth. Hear me out, because I can hear you now. Emma, Qlipoth's cavalry was a faction specifically formed to fight against the swarm. What do they have in common with it? Oh, I don't know. Maybe the fact that they both endlessly churn out fighting drones whose only purpose is to live and die for the sake of the collective with no identity and no individual will. And when they eventually outgrow their usefulness, they will just explode. I don't know. Little things like that. Qlipoth's method of combating the swarm was to make a clone army, constantly churning out soldiers in more or less the same way as Tayzzyronth. In their desire to survive, they became the very thing they swore to destroy. Wow, that sounds very familiar. I'm pretty sure Jade or Eve or whoever she is now, she used to be AR-1368. This particular soldier right here with the freaking veracity coded symbols on her shoulders, making the terminal illness that Eve has entropy loss syndrome. My guess is that Jade made some kind of deal with either Diamond or the remnants of veracity within the swarm to continue to feed them for as long as they kept her alive. And also, look at their eyes. For as wild as it sounds to call Qlipoth propagation, it all fits, and I freaking love it. And don't forget, there is one other character that has strong veracity coding. It's Evernight. And I'm not going to spend too much time on her. The veracity coding is really strong. I don't feel like I need to explain too much. Mouth on her sleeve, eating Amphorius. The first time we saw her in 1.5 was inside a veracity creature. And for the icing on the cake, the underside of her umbrella has that very veracity red that we also see on AR-1368. And her link to propagation from that is literally just that she's called Mother about a dozen times in different places. She definitely has an Enigmata remembrance connection, but there is a veracity propagation thing going on there too. So yeah, not only do we have propagation creatures being used in veracity's symbols, but of the characters we have any substantial information on who follow veracity, they're both also linked to propagation. Our evidence grows. But there's one more thing about Jade I want to mention, and it sort of involves Evernight too. Remember this odd thing where we can enter Amphorius from path space, but no one can leave? This is gonna sound disjointed for a second, but it weirdly reminds me of how things work in the IPC. Let's go back to Jade again for a second. Besides her light cone, she also has a habit of just adopting people. And yeah, she's very parasitic about it. Another hallmark of the propagation, don't ask. But she brings these young, vulnerable people under her wing, indebted to her, and they form this weird, twisted sort of family. Topaz, Aventurine, and I wouldn't be all that surprised if Sunday or Firefly eventually joined the group as well. And to people saying, that's not really propagation per se, you're right. It's a little thing I've started calling propagation via consumption, or propagation via assimilation, where adding to the number of a group and consuming people in the name of the group's survival becomes synonymous. Another word for this would be converting people, and it's not just the way Jade runs, it's the way the entire IPC runs. It's pretty much established fact in the fandom at this point that the IPC does not follow preservation. They obviously say they do, but their methods are super freaking sus. The IPC swallows up people just just as voraciously as resources, and all the while, their number grows. My video last year covered all the reasons why I think IPC follows propagation, but to all you people in my comments both then and now who asserted the IPC actually follows voracity, yes, I actually agree. It's just not quite that straightforward. This is what it looks like when both those paths combine. A path resonance, more or less, under the umbrella of propagation and behind a mask of preservation. And to anyone who says this is too many eons or too complicated, don't worry, this is very intentional on the IPC's part. They do have an actual endgame here, but that is next month's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is a super laid back video, of course. I rushed it a bit, but I am still really proud of it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, that it got your brains moving, and that you'll be back for the follow-up next month. In the meantime, I'll still be posting my fun little explaining the paths and eons shorts that I've been doing this whole time. These have been super fun for me to work on, and actually gives me a little more space to explain what the philosophy is behind each path in a way that I haven't been able to before. I'm really enjoying it. Reminder once again, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe, like, leave a comment, as long as it's not a leak, and another little reminder, by the way, I am on Discord, Twitter, Twitch, a bunch of different places. Go check out my socials linked in the description as well. This is one of those theories that I don't really see being confirmed for a while yet, maybe even years. But the evidence is starting to stack up a bit, and I am very excited to watch it happen. I'll see you for either next month's video or the 3.6 live stream, whichever happens first. And in the meantime, all of you, remember to get some rest, drink some water, eat some good food, take care of yourselves in general. You are important, and you are very special to me. Please, for me, stay safe and stay kind. Bye!